Okay, let's have a look at this then. The Iberian miracle amazes Europe. It's funny because it's as if nobody was expecting this, and it's not just Portugal, but Portugal and Spain are responsible for holding the whole eurozone above the water, basically, by the sound of it. So feel free to chip in at any moment with your
I,
views on this. Sorry, go on.
I do find that article to be a very, how do I put it?
Go on. however you want to. In your pau, queijo, I think.
Yeah, I really am missing the world right now, but basically very narrow visioned because come on, yeah, sure, Portugal and Spain demonstrated the growth bigger than most of the other European cities,
Yes.
the countries. However, the growth in Portugal is actually about the same or slightly less than last year, and 2 years ago it was even bigger. So they are putting it as a huge surprise when it really isn't.
What? Because we have known about it. Is the surprise not that it's been? We have been. I'm gonna use the collective we, but we've been the savior of the eurozone. Isn't that the big news here? That the reputation, I suppose, for Southern Europe. The eurozone looks down on the Southern European countries, doesn't it? It's France and Germany, and formerly the UK, that were the powerhouses of the EU. And not much was expected of the Southern European countries. And now look, Germany is on its backside. UK has left the EU, and here we are on the Iberian Peninsula driving the economic engine. It would appear. Is that not the angle here?
Yes, it is. I'm always pretty curious about how these measurements are made because,
Me
for
too.
example, public debt actually went up this year. So
Yes.
I am always pretty curious. It's supposedly about the increase on expenses by private consumers and
Yeah.
exports, which I think would be truthful, and also the growth of tourism and improvement of infrastructures in Portugal is definitely a good factor here. I
Yes.
do stand by what we already know, that is, Portugal is a pretty good place to live. I do kind of worry about the economy. In a way, it's good that the economy keeps going up. The government is also making somewhat of an effort to raise the minimum wage through the past 5 years or so. It has been raising about 5% every year. I think now this year it's going to be 860, which is a really good improvement because like I said 5 years ago, I that will be on my video, the right numbers, but
Okay.
it was under it was like 600 and
Yes.
something.
Yes.
So it's the minimum wage is still drastically low
Yeah.
compared to other countries. And another thing that actually made a lot of rounds on the Portuguese news was the fact that Portugal is quite lowly rated on the how many salaries it takes to buy a house, and
Yes.
it's like 230 something, and that's a lot.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? It's madness. And
It's actually, I did go and see the overall numbers throughout the world, and that's kind of an average number, to be honest.
is
It's
it?
not that high,
Yeah.
but it's I wouldn't find it positive at all.
It's depressing, isn't it? I mean, and that's the problem with these economic reports. Is what we need to get a sense of improvement is that affects people. Otherwise, it's gaslighting, isn't it? So people are how many salaries do I need to buy a house? Oh, 10 million now at the moment, and then you're being told on when you turn the telly on that things are improving. Now, if the improvement's not there for everyday people in their minimum wage and how easy or not it is to find a house, they're not going to believe this sort of thing, are they? So I do accept that it's quite conceptual and of a different sort of order than what people might actually want, and not have all this sort of gaslighting economics. Things are definitely getting better for you. Oh, really? It doesn't feel like it when you walk into the supermarket. But anyway, let's see what they've got to say here. Economists warn it's not enough on its own to avoid recession. That's the worrying little sting in the tail here. Spanish newspaper El Economista has described the Iberian miracle, which has saved Europe from recession so far. somewhat guarded there. With the economies of France and Germany in the doldrums, Spain and Portugal were responsible for 50% of the Eurozone's growth in the last quarter. It's a surprise that is intriguing economists. You can imagine them sitting around scratching their beards, can't you? But according to investment bank JP Morgan, the dynamic is not sustainable unless Germany and France start recovering and Europe is heading for a recession. If not, probably never before has the Iberian Peninsula been so important in keeping the euro economy afloat, Venture reports. That's the surprising thing, isn't it? And somewhat patronizing as well, perhaps. Between them, Spain and Portugal account for just 13% of the Eurozone's GDP. But if the two nations were excluded from the last quarter's analysis, the Eurozone's growth would have already dipped into negative territory. In fact, annual growth would have halved, says El Economista. Just a couple more, just a few more stats, and then let's see what Anna has to think about this or say about it. Spain on its own accounted for a third of all Eurozone growth in the last quarter, with Portugal bringing up the rear. Spain grew by 0.8% and Portugal by 1.5%. You mentioned that there, Anna. Year on year, Spain grew by 3.5%, Portugal by 2.7%. On an annual basis, the boost is even clearer. The Eurozone grew by 0.9% of that. 0.9%. Spain and Portugal account for 0.43 percentage points. Spain contributed 0.3815 and Portugal 0.0459 points. We're going into the long grass there, are we not? But a couple of things on that. Clearly, as you said, quality, whatever is happening in the EU, and we might expect some challenges, mightn't we? You know, there's talk of recession there. We could take refuge, I suppose. We are the safe haven, are we not? Given where Portugal tends to sit in the sort of slipstream of these things. Would you agree on that analysis?
Yes,
of all the places you could be, it could be a lot worse.
I think that the war in Ukraine and Russia will also affect this because, like you say, the Peninsula Iberia ends up being a very safe location from that perspective, geographically speaking.
Yes.
And the biggest risk in Portugal would be probably the maritime territory. But I do think it's very unlikely that Portugal would be attacked because the only way that they could attack it would be by long-range attacks, but they then couldn't claim it because they would have to, go through all the other countries to get here.
Yes, that's pretty chilling proposition there. That has never occurred to me, quite frankly. But yeah,
overall, I do think that Portugal does become attractive in that sense, with the being a fairly safe location, and that the war did affect the economies that were closer to it because people start to worry for their safety, and rightly so.
But well, fascinating. I think it's more strategically important, isn't it, on the Atlantic Riviera? Although we don't want to be making too much noise about that to Donald Trump at the moment. So let's just keep our heads down and enjoy the Portuguese lifestyle that we are becoming accustomed to here, and take some comfort in these figures. The other part of this, and what's being sort of made, the case is being made for and about, is the partnership between Spain and Portugal. Is that with your understanding of this? I don't know how much you're not an economist, are you? I'm guessing, right? But as a sort of a trading duo or trading twins, is that something you've grown up with as a Portuguese person? That Spain and Portugal together are
we have the whole neighbor love-hate relationship,
Right.
It's like Portuguese people will complain about a lot of things about Spanish people, but then we also enjoy a lot of advantage. One of the things I think that comes up the most is the discontent around the gasoline and diesel prices that are a lot cheaper in Spain.
Yeah.
Overall, I would say that the Spanish economy is healthier from an internal perspective. The minimum wage in Spain is drastically higher than in Portugal. I don't know the exact values, but it's something like at least 30-40% difference.
Is it?
Yes, at least.
Wow.
So I would say that in a way, Spanish is a bit better managed. They are known to be very hard on international taxes. And I do have a Catalonian brother that, he inherited things in Portugal just as I did. and it's a pain for him every time because the international taxes in Spain are really a pain.
Yes,
So
they
that's
are.
also something I tend to warn clients, that are people that are in on edge about the Portugal or Spain. Do consult with a tax advisor, because Spain can be really a headache when it comes
Yeah.
to international taxes, and they are known to be high. I honestly don't think that's a bad thing, because it does protect the local economy in a way, but
Yes.
it's not very good for expats.
No, as we're finding, and hopefully Portugal won't be copying Spain's 100% tax on foreign purchases. Hopefully
Has
that
that been approved? I don't think
no, it's
that.
been written about as though it has been here in Portugal, and it hasn't been approved.
No, no, I don't even know. Like I said last time, I don't even know or think it will actually get approved, but
Yeah.
we will see.
Yeah, we will see. But you don't think then that there will be like the Iberian partnership as a mini trading bloc, because there's a lot of trade goes on between the two countries, and I've heard this before. There is a friendly sort of rivalry, isn't there, and a historical rivalry between the two countries, but Portugal and Spain get on so much better than people would imagine, and it's quite a quiet relationship, and here it is saving the eurozone's butt at the moment. But you don't think there's any sense of a proactive
I don't
trading
think
partnership?
that the governments are proactively collaborating between the two in order to reach these results. I think they are just kind of working towards that goal in that own way, and it just works out to be
Yes,
uh, seen as a partnership, but I don't think it's an actual partnership.
I think you're right.
And there's also a lot of products that are produced in both Portugal and Spain that we are kind of competing markets in that way, especially, agricultural, like fruits and vegetables and so on.
Yes,
And Portuguese people always like to say that ours are better.
of
And I
course.
would say that
They
a
are,
lot of
aren't they?
them are.
I agree. I agree. Right. Yeah, they're fascinating. I was just, in my mind, I'm thinking you had the Irish, the Celtic tiger economy, and how it might be if Portugal and Spain work more closely together. They probably wouldn't be a tiger. They might be like the Iberian tortoise. The slow and steady wins the race kind of economics, perhaps, which is what's being shown by this article at the moment. Well, we can move on from that. There are lots of other things to celebrate and share
There we
with
go.
you.
Minimum wage. Sorry.
That is much more indeed, as Mel's found out there. Morning to you, T Duck. Busy day. Bon dia, alegria, gumpers. And Antonio Barbosa also with us. Bon dia. Morning greetings from an extremely moist Cerveira up there. Some days you just got to create your own sunshine. That's a good sentiment. Wishing you all a happy Friday and a wonderful weekend. A bit of Tony time there for you. Bon fin semana from the man in the Minho. And Pete's here, 26% more than Portugal, but taxes are a lot higher. Once you're taxed twice when buying and selling property, Spain is also the most corrupt country in Europe, aside from Albania, and the house prices
Really?
are mad. That's interesting.
I'm
There,
surprised about the corruption. I would say that probably is worse in Portugal, to be honest.
right? Okay. Well, both
I
of
think
you,
the Spanish
both.
probably just are louder about it and actually get revolted about it, while
I
Portuguese kind
see
of
what
just
you did
lay it
there.
out and it's like, it is what it is.
I see what you did there, Anna. That was a kind of put down, a classic Portuguese put down of the Spanish. Well, our corruption is just as good. They're just noisy about it. That is a classic Iberian exchange right there. Okay, and both of you can own your comments. Any complaints or legal action about those corruption allegations to be sent directly to those who uttered them this morning, Peter and Anna. I think I know the guy who may be able to advise on the difference between tax between Spain and Portugal. Michael Heron, if only he had a channel. Well, it's coming. Good morning, Spain. He's on